Alright, you front bombs, welcome to the Paraphysics Podcast. This one is about when I had an accident on my bike when I was about 13 and a half years old. I believe it was during summertime. And it's not majorly exciting, but it does tie into like what happens in the future. But yeah, it's about two dreams that I had. So yeah, back in the summertime when I was about 13 or so, I was at home playing on like a console and got a bit bored, and I thought I'll go see my brothers who were fishing down by like a local river, and left the house, got on the bike, travelled about 5 minutes down the road, and then got to a point where I like looked behind me. I was coming up to like a T-junction, looked behind me, there was a car, looked again, it was about the same distance away as what I thought it was, you know, when I last saw it. And I thought, oh, I've got plenty of time to make it to the T-junction, then turn. Didn't really think about it and turned, and car was just probably travelling a little bit faster than what I thought. And then all I remember is hearing this screech, and then flying sort of, well, falling sort of backwards, and then it just all went black. The next part gets a bit strange because I remember kind of the road and the field nearby, and even like looking at myself at some points, but don't know if that was actually real or not, but I remember kind of dreaming that. And at the same time, sort of superimposed over it, there was this, on my left, like a male figure of some kind, and then like a female to his left or my right, and then to the male's right or my left was like a younger male, maybe a teenager, and then to the female's left or my right was like a little toddler or something. There might have been a fifth one, and if there was, it's very hard to tell if there was another person there, but I think definitely there was four. Could have been five, and if it was five, I get this feeling it was another female. But the entire time, all I remember is the male just being like, oh, you know, and it was like a webcam shot. All I could see was like head, shoulders, and slight bit of torso, and that was it. And it was like, I don't know, probably about a foot away from me, sort of an image in my mind. And the male was like, oh, you've let the family down, I can't believe you've done this, you've let the family down. But weirdly, like, they didn't have normal sort of body expressions, or they weren't even moving their arms or anything like that. It was just like they were staring at me, and like one guy was talking, and that was it, just like, you know, you've let the family down. I don't even remember lips moving or anything, or blinking, that's the other thing. I just remember like intense staring. And the entire time that was happening, I was being like berated by that guy. Oh, I've let the family down, you know, you've really disappointed us and all this. And I was crying. I was like so upset. I was just crying. And I didn't realise this, but at the time, not my words, but their words, I was actually semi-conscious at the time. So I was actually lying in the road while everyone was around, like trying to you know, get a blanket from a nearby house or something, and they were looking after me, and the face was covered in blood. And yeah, and I was crying, and I didn't know that I was doing that in the real life, but in the dream world I was very upset. And it was actually, so the entire time that's going on, it's like I'm floating around whilst this superimposed image is right in front of me. And it went on for a little while. I can't remember how long it went on for, but it went on for a while. 20 minutes or so, I don't know. And it was actually the sound of the ambulance coming that woke me up. And so I was crying, like, like that. And all of a sudden, poof, like that, I was just like awake. And I was like, I'm awake. And then I'm looking around, like, what the hell's going on? So I try to get up. Someone's like trying to push me down, like pushing on my chest, like, no, stay down, stay down, stay down. Like, you've been involved in an accident, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what the hell? And I was still in like a kind of weird like mode where I didn't know what was going on. And I was like looking around like, and I think I'd lost my glasses at the time, so things were pretty blurry. And I was like, is this a dream? Like that. And I remember the guy, sort of, he just chuckled a little bit and he went like, no, this is quite real. And I remember that exactly. And then I just went, oh God, like that, you know. Like, no, why? And then it gets a bit hazy after that, and then get put into the back of the ambulance. My mum's there as well, sort of like me on the bed here. Mum sat next to me, paramedic guy over there, and then like a driver. And as we're like travelling along, I've got this like neck brace thing on. And as we're like travelling along to like the hospital, going over like bumps and stuff, this neck brace is like digging into the back of my neck. And at the same time, I'm feeling like really tired, like more tired than ever in my entire life. And yeah, they're like, stay awake and keep talking to him. And you know, the paramedic or my mum is asking me these like really lame questions, like, oh, you know, where do you go to school and what did you do? And I was like, ugh, all these questions are like really boring, and I just want to go to sleep. And they were like, no, 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 don't fall asleep, you know, don't, you know. And then, and this freaking thing was digging into my neck anyway, so I was like, if you're worried that I have a broken neck, this thing is giving me a fucking broken neck. And then at one point the paramedic was like, you know, don't let him fall asleep, don't let him fall asleep. And my mum just like, slapped me across the face, like, as hard as she could. And I was like, what the fuck was that for? And I could sense it in the room, in the back of the ambulance. I could sense it, like the two guys just like looking at each other like that, you know, fine. Anyway, that woke me up, and then got to the hospital, done a few tests and all that, see if I was okay. And then they were like, yeah, you can go to sleep now. So I was like, oh, you know, finally. And by that time, I think that I'd adjusted the neck brace and all that, so I could actually sleep. And then got to like the evening, you know, and throughout the night, every now and again, like someone would like lift up my arm, and then that would wake me up, and I was like, what's going on? And it was like this nurse with a Velcro band, like just standing next to me going like, tss, 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 like that. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she was like, oh, I'm just taking your blood pressure and all this, don't worry about it. And I'm like, okay. And then like an hour later, so it's like 2 o'clock in the morning or something, same thing happens again, just like tss, 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 and I'm like, what the? So I'm just taking your blood pressure again. And I was like, you just did that, you know? Okay. Yeah, it happened like a third time or something like that. It just kept on happening all throughout night, and then finally it clicked on like the third time. I was like, oh, you have to come back every hour and do it. Like, why don't you just tell me that, and then I'd have at least prepared my mind for it. But what happened is like, at some point during the night, I had this other dream, and I sort of awoke, and it was quite a vivid, colourful dream. I hadn't really had many dreams like that before, except from since this accident and then onwards. And I was on like a desert island, and there were like kids a couple years older than me, so maybe like 14, 15, quite a few kids about my age, about 13, and then a few that were about 10 or 11 or something. And it was about, I don't know, 20 or 30 of us or something, like a small little group. And it just starts off, we're all on this desert island, don't know what to do. And they're like, oh, what should we do, and all this. And I'm like, well, we need food, shelter, and like wood for fire. So this my brother, my older brother in the dream, he's like, oh, you know, he goes like, yeah, we need to split up into groups. I don't know why, I can't remember why, but I was in the group that went to go look for food. And we're all like doing our own little thing. What seemed to be hours, you know, but minutes maybe. Anyway, we come back to the I don't know, the starting area, and we'd had like a little bit of luck and got some food, like berries and grubs or whatever, I don't know. And there was like 3 twigs on the floor. And I'm like, what have you guys been doing for like all this time? And the leader or whatever at the time was like, oh, what we need to do is like separate, you know, the food out and ration it out and divide it up so it's all equal. And I was like, equal? Like, no one's done anything, so why should we do all the work and then get the same amount as everyone else? Anyway, I was like, something's odd about all this. And then it got to a point where I was like, right, well, I can build a shelter, so I'll build the shelter. So I started to like build the shelters and stuff. Then it came to the next point where I was like, well, now do I get double the amount of food because I've had double the amount of work? And it was like, no, it still has to be equal. And I'm like, it doesn't really seem equal, not to me. And there was one point where I was just like, I can't stay here anymore, like, not with this fucking retard, like leading everyone, I can't do it. I've got to leave. So I gathered like wood together and I built a raft. And I went up to the leader guy again and I was like, can I have some food for the journey? And he was like, no. And I was like, you're joking, like this is absolutely ridiculous. So I went off again to go gather some food, came back, and it was like everyone was coming up to me to like get their equal share, and I was like, nah. I was like, this is mine. So I got on the raft with my food and all that and left. And everyone was going like, no, don't leave. And I'm like, I'm not staying here to die. You know, I just had it in my head, like, if I'm staying there, I'm gonna die. There's no chance of survival. But if I leave, I might die, but there's a chance of survival. So I thought, I'm gonna take it. And I was the only one. I thought, I'm gonna do it anyway. And I've never really been like that as a kid. I'd always been like a crowd follower, but I don't know, since then I was more confident. And I was like, nah, I'm not staying there. Anyway, I was out at sea for what felt like days, you know. And finally I got rescued by this like old, like 17th or 18th century, like wooden British ship kind of thing with like cannons and sails and all that. And I got brought on board. And there was only like, I don't know, 4 or 5 survivors from the island. And I kind of got berated again, like, oh, why didn't you stay? And like, if you'd have stayed, you'd have been rescued first. And I was thinking like, but I still got rescued in the end, but at least I did it my own way. And then, that was kind of it. And one of the tall guys who kind of brought me on board, he's important. Well, I think he keeps reoccurring in my dreams later. But yeah, some of the characters in there I think keep reappearing. But anyway, yeah, that's a couple really weird dreams that started off this whole thing where I kind of seem to notice that something's not quite right. And I can sort of pick up on it and then I'll investigate it, and it gets me into a lot of arguments with them. But yeah, that's basically what happened. And I don't know if the accident had anything to do with, you know, getting hit a bit on this side, a bit too hard on the head, and then, I don't know. But yeah, that's the end of it. And next time I'll tell you about a couple stories that involve my dad talking about like his sort of alien UFO experiences. So that'll be the next one. So yeah, that's the story for now.